shoot a quick video here for all you newbies who not sure how to actually solder on a Traxxas connector. A couple of things you're going to need. First off is a soldering station or a soldering wand, whichever you may have. Just a tip, the more powerful it is, or the bigger it is, or the more wattage it kicks out, the easier it is to solder. I started off with a small little wand. It didn't put out enough, so if you can't melt the solder, you're not going to solder anything. Alright, so I'm actually going to do this on the vehicle. This is Lisa's Wheelie King crawler. I just installed a Novak crawler motor brushless system. It comes with Tamiya style Molex connector. So let's see, make sure that's in the camera. Yep. So I'm going to be cutting this off and installing a Traxxas connector. I got these Traxxas connectors actually through Hobby King. You could buy a 10-pack there for I think $2 or $3. I've used them for years. They work really well. A couple things you're going to need. You're going to need a pair of snips to cut off the Molex connector. You're going to need a knife to actually trim that back. Possibly a pair of needle nose. You're going to need some solder. I use some really thin stuff. This is a 44 rosin wire. Works really well. You pick that up at any car parts store or Home Depot, anything like that. A small screwdriver, and then I find that I use soldering paste. A lot of people don't, but I've really had no luck without using soldering paste, so it works for me. Alright, so let's get started. First thing you're going to want to do is trim the wires back. I don't use these connectors. Really have no use for them, so I'll just throw that in the garbage. Then you're going to want to trim back your leads. Before I do that, I'll show you, there's actually an A and B connector on Traxxas connectors. You're going to be wanting to use the B connector, and that's going to be the ESC side of the plug. And let's see if that will actually show that. So right here it shows a couple of lines, says B connector, shows a couple of lines here. You don't only want the solder on those lines there. You don't want to go any more. So that being said, you don't need the wire any longer than that. So all I'm going to do is cut the wire just a nice small length. Of course, this is how I do it. Other people may do it differently. When I started the hobby, I had no idea how to solder. It was really difficult. And the thing I found is because my soldering iron. I had a really cheap soldering iron I got from Radio Shack, and it didn't work worth a shit. In fact, I ended up throwing it across the room. Just to let you know, they tend to break when you do that. So I went out and at my local hobby store picked up this Traxxas Power soldering station, and you know what? I can solder anything from small wires to large wires just by dialing it in, and it doesn't even think about it. It just does it. Okay, so I got those stripped back now. Take your small screwdriver. Again, I use soldering paste. You don't have to if you don't want to, but I find it easier. And what you're going to want to do is prep each lead. So you're going to want to prep the positive negative wire on the ESC, and you're going to want to prep the soldering tabs. And what I mean by prepping it is you're going to want to put solder on both. I do recommend safety goggles. If something's going to go wrong, it's going to go wrong with me. So I always recommend that. Nice soldering. Let's see if I can show this here. Just lift you up. What you want to do is the soldering station comes with a nice sponge. I always get that nice and wet. I got the temperature up really high. Probably doesn't actually have to be that high. But you want to wipe down the soldering iron so it's nice and clean. Can you get that? There it is. So it's nice and clean. Using a dirty soldering iron it doesn't work as well. Put it that way. So I mean, it comes with everything. So I'm going to turn that down to about 800. I'm not going to need it like that. And I'm hoping that you guys are going to be able to see this. Let me actually put you up on something a little taller. Try to get you into the shot. So, okay, so hopefully we can see that there. There's a wall right behind me, so it's tough to look into the camera. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to take a little bit of solder. We've already wiped it down. Drop a solder on there. Use your screwdriver to hold the tab. And the solder will melt right on. And again, I don't know if you can see that. So, again, just a little bit of solder. A little bit will do you. You don't need a big glob. Put it on. And there we go. So, not much solder left on the tip. I wipe it down every time I'm done using it. And then, see if I can show you that. Ouch, warm, hot. All right, so now you can actually see where I've only soldered up where those lines were. The wire isn't going to go any higher, so you don't need to go any higher with your solder. Too much solder is not a good thing either. So let's go ahead and pre-tint our ESC wires as well. When the solder gets hot enough, you'll see it actually just go into all the wire. Now, if your soldering gun isn't quite hot enough to melt it quickly, what it's going to do is heat up your wire. So you're going to want to watch that you don't hold on this. This gets hot anyway, but you might find that you're going to burn yourself if you're holding on this wire. That's why I use small pliers or a small screwdriver to kind of hold it where I want. You also don't want to apply the heat too long because you may actually end up just melting your wire. So just kind of a tip there. All right, so now we're all set. We have the wires tinted. We got our tabs tinted. Let's see if I can do this. Really didn't leave myself a lot of room. Kind of wanted to show you. You guys don't actually have to remove the ESC from the truck or from your vehicle. It probably would make it easier, but you know what? I don't make things easy. One more thing I'm going to grab that I didn't mention. Way over here. Be right back. Okay. So another thing I like to do also is, should pre-tint those more. But what I like to do is crimp these down. So you have a flat spot there on your wire so you can actually go onto the tab. Instead of like round on flat, it's flat on flat. Yeah, that one's good. Okay. So I'm going to add just a little bit more of the magic juice here. And it makes a pretty smoke too, so that's always handy. Alright, so yeah, it definitely probably would have been a lot easier outside the vehicle, but there's no way that this is going to be easy with the camera going. I can see this now. So I'll be back in just a second and I'll show you how to solder those on. Okay, with a little bit of MacGyver work, a paint can, and something else, I've got this up a little higher, so it's going to be a lot easier to solder on. Easy's good. So what I'm actually doing now is I'm setting up the screwdriver on this because that gets really, really hot. And I've burnt my fingers so many times, it's just not fun anymore. Not that it was fun to begin with, but I guess I kind of learned. So you just apply the heat to both. Once it heats up both at the same temperature, it should just mold right into each other. And you'll get a nice bead. If you don't get it straight, you can always heat it back up and do it again. So, screwdriver down, let's try to lift my arm up just in case you didn't. Oh, wait a minute. I'm going to probably have to move the camera because you're not going to be able to see anything. Let's try this one more time. I love doing things live, you know? Awesome. Okay. Try that again. We'll move it in a little closer. Tilt this down. Zoom in about there. There we go. Okay. Let's try this again. That first one might have been a complete disaster, but I try to do my videos all in one take. I don't like editing. So sometimes it makes for a boring video, sometimes it makes for an interesting video because you get to see all my screw ups. All right, I think we're ready. I think you should be able to see that right there. We're going to add a little bit of heat from the soldering tip. Kablamo! Look at that. Beautiful. I like to blow on it. You can hum when you blow. That's really not humming, I guess. But anyway, and you just want to make sure that it cools down. Once it cools down, then you can actually see how stiff it is and how much it adheres to each other. Try not to touch these right after you're done because you're going to burn yourself and we don't need that. Right, so now you're actually done. It's a good connection on both positive and negative on the ESC. You then take your B connector and take off my safety goggles. Good thing I showed you that on the video. And so basically all you want to do, when you look at these, there's actually a flat and a hump. So you want the top of the wire where you soldered on the hump part, and then you want the flat part on the flat part. And they actually have these tabs here, so they'll actually click right inside the connector. So you want to make sure that you put the positive in the positive. And let's see if I can show you how to do this. So I just take a small screwdriver. Probably stab myself here. And you'll feel it click into place. There we go. Also, one more thing to show, just so you see. Let's see if I can show that to you. And kind of not. Okay, what I'm trying to show you is on this connector here, you can actually see how, you can still see the letter B. You actually can't on the camera, but I can see it. The letter B. So that's how little I actually soldered that tab on there as well. Again, you don't need that much. The problem is if you make it much larger, it's not going to fit inside the connector. So you actually don't want it to be too long. There we go, one. And this one did not click in, so let's try that again. They are tough to put in, but they never really come out, so that's good. That's probably the hardest part of the whole thing. Yeah. There we go. All right, and there you go. That's how you install a Traxxas connector on your ESC in a vehicle or outside of a vehicle. Really depends on what you want to do. I installed this and realized I had a Molex connector on it, so I just did it inside the vehicle. Anyway, you'll probably see a video upcoming of Lisa's crawler. This is her HPI Wheelie King with some Mudslinger tires on from RC 4-wheel drive. And again, just installed the new Novak Timbuk2. I've actually had this sitting around for a little while. I had a problem with it, sent it back to Novak. They fixed it no charge. And yeah, so Lisa's going to have a nice brushless crawler. It's going to work quite well. Anyway, thanks for watching. I hope you found this informative. Hit the like button, click subscribe, shoot me a message. I'll try to answer what I can and go from there. Thanks for watching. Have a good day.